Okay, we're finally live. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to get my fingers working quick. Hey everyone, listen. We just got spammed all up over the place. I couldn't even get my fingers to move quick enough to delete, move, whatever. We just got spammed by at least 20 people trying to get up into this Zoom. So I'm sorry if you saw the madness for 2 seconds. That
My
was
eyes, my eyes.
I couldn't even move my fingers. And my daughter was like, what is that? So I was tripping, trying to save the public from all of that madness. But here we are. We figured it out. There was literally like 20 people trying to get in, plus some trying to get into our call. So who knows what that's all about? Hopefully I think I deleted the video for those of you who saw or will see that little drama that just happened. But anywho,
Sister Kamilah, are we on record now?
we're recording.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're recording. And yeah, I gotta take a breath for a second because that took me off guard. So yeah, so be mindful. Those of you out there, if you're doing Zooms and you have your link, I'm probably gonna change it to, I don't know. I don't know. We'll talk about this maybe later if I change it to registration. But I don't know. I'll figure out something to kind of keep the spammers out. But anywho, hi everyone. I'm Kamilah Bywaters. I'm running for the Board of School Trustees for District E. And it's really been a great experience so far, just working in the community, doing the work that I have been doing in the past, like advocating for our community, advocating for education. My family and my friends and I have been knocking and hitting doors, meeting voters. We've been attending events to get our name out there. So it's been a really exciting journey, and I really look forward to tonight's conversation. We're going to talk about students and preparing them for life after graduation and what that may look like. I'll go ahead and have my co-host introduce himself, and then we'll move forward from there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join our show. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. And this is apparently going to be an energetic show, at least our beginning seems to have us headed in that direction. But tonight we want to talk about, this is that time of the year when children in the 12th grade are trying to figure out what they're doing with their life. Children in the 11th grade are wondering how will they get through school. And children in the 10th grade are just coming to grips is that, hey, I'm in high school and soon I'm going to be an adult. So we're hoping that we could venture into what your experiences were. So this is going to be an active meeting. So hopefully everyone will chime in here on the Zoom as well as on Facebook to share what some of the lessons learned from making it through school, however you made it, what the experience was like, and maybe some lessons learned that you would like to share with others so that they can have a better experience going through school. I know I didn't have any counselors guiding me. It was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants with a lot of crashing. But eventually I made it through. What was your experience? And of course, as I always say, this is a great opportunity to interact with a candidate and soon to be trustee for Clark County School Board District E. And she's setting the example, and hopefully other trustees will follow that example in their openness on engaging with their constituents before they're in office, and of course, once they have been voted into office. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Thank you all for joining us here. And to everybody out there on Facebook, appreciate you there too.
Thank you for the introduction. We still have people trying to get in the Zoom, so I'm not going to let anyone in just because I don't know who they are. So if you know us, send me a text so I can let you in the Zoom, because at this point we're just being bombed all over the place, which which would be expected because we've been out here, constantly. We've been very consistent with our messaging and ensuring that we're meeting people and talking to our community, talking about what's going on in school. So this is a part of it, I guess. This is a part of it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Are there any, what's today? Today is Tuesday. Does anyone have any announcement or events that are coming up?
as you all know, I give away food. We gave away food yesterday in the Valley View area, maybe about $100,000 worth of food that was free to first come, first serve, from fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, to different types of meat, Cornish hens, giant turkey breasts, some of the biggest turkey breasts I've ever seen, actually, and milk, dairy, butter, eggs, you name it, we gave it away to our community. But that was the second time. We also did it Saturday in the same community and also had a big turnout. And I'm looking at doing it again, probably at the end of the week. But just stay tuned and I'll put something on Facebook. Also take it to the Senior Center on Martin Luther King, as well as Doolittle, and to some of the senior housing developments, Rainbow Dreams, Nevada Partners. Just I try to focus on that area to make sure that they're well served and to let them know that they're not forgotten about. So that's some of the things I've been doing, and that's what I hope to continue doing. And a big shout out to all of the people who came out to help, because really it was, I wish you all could have seen it. It was people that looked like you and I who came together to provide food for people who needed it that looked like you and I. So that's building community capacity, and I want to keep on building that type of capacity for our community.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Because I know there's been a couple times that I've called and you and Shaquilla have been out delivering food. So we're definitely grateful for that. And please get involved if you can. If we need people to always help, and if you need food, let Mr. Rodney know. Anna's, I did get a text from somebody to send them the link. So the message is out there. We are on
one by one. This is gonna be like Noah's Ark. We're not letting everybody in.
I feel like, what is it? I'm a bouncer at the club when you go through the line. Shaquilla, are you in the call?
Yes, I was having difficulty with other technology, so I'm trying to get in through my laptop now.
Okay, so this is you. I was like, somebody else is trying to be. Okay, cool. Okay. All right.
So for those who may not know what happened, just full disclosure, we did have a spam attack with people wanting to display portions of their body that most of us would rather not see. And so that's why we're being a little more cautious with who we're letting in. We want to get good content and interactions and engage with our community. And these were people obviously trying to disrupt what we're trying to do here. So we're trying to make light of it as we continue to move forward. But whenever you're doing a live show and social media that's open to the general public, well, some of those people in the general public we don't want to be in the general public, at least not into this show. So that's what we're dealing with. So please bear with us, and we will bring you on. And if you are someone that we don't know, but you are a friend of someone we do know, please let them know to tell us who you are so we can let you in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that recap, because I think that was probably needed for those who just joined on. And thank you to everyone who's joined on. I did want to go ahead and get our conversation started. So if you do not know, I have been a teacher. I'm a special education teacher. I'm licensed in special education, the field of special education. And I've also been a student in the Clark County School District. So I've had my own experiences with navigating what am I going to do after high school. And I've also supported students in thinking about that same question. So I think tonight what I would like for us to talk about is, give parents and students some guidance around some of their options that they can have, and also learning from your own experience. And when I finish this statement, I'm going to let Anna go ahead and introduce herself. One thing that's important is that you really start to plan and talk about some of your interests. Students talk about some of the things that you're interested in so that you can begin to explore as early as possible. I just talked to a young lady the other day who is thinking about going into, she wants to be a psychologist so she can work within the schools. And she was talking about how, she hasn't really decided what she wants to do. But what I was encouraging her, and what I thought was really phenomenal, was that she was kind of exploring different fields. Like she was in the beauty industry, she worked in retail, and was now thinking about, I mean, she was a young lady, and she's now thinking about psychology. So the earlier that students can get started, kind of exploring, doing internships, that will help you. Sometimes when I'm grown up and I'm like, hey, when I grow up, I still want to be, and I thought about, hey, maybe I want to go to law school. But now after working my PhD, I'm like, I'm done with that. But I do kind of wish that I would have, when I was younger, explored some careers a little bit more. I did have an opportunity at Rancho High School. We had a magnet school. So I was able to be in the allied health section of the magnet school. And I learned very early that the medical field was not for me. Why? And one reason is because you have to think way too quick. And I don't think that quick. If somebody has an injury, is hurt, bleeding all over the place, I'm like, you know what? This nursing stuff and all this stuff and medical is not for me. So that was a really good experience for me because I learned early that, the medical field really wasn't my field. But I wish I had a little bit more conversations with people to kind of pick my brain to say, hey, Kamilah, do you like to debate? Heck yeah, I love a good debate. And if you've seen me and Anna at that school board, even though we debating by ourselves, because they don't talk to you. They don't talk to you in the school board. So we debating by ourselves, but listen, we go back and forth and it's fun because we're advocating. So I'll go ahead and transition it to Anna so she can introduce herself. Okay.
Okay, no, I'm so sorry. Obviously, you guys know it's about dinner time. So we have dinner noises going on in the background, but thank you guys so much for the space. And, EGM's been popping back at me. I don't know if you've noticed, but in my last couple rounds of public comment, when they're not allegedly supposed to interact with the public, she's made it a point to try to diminish the value of what I said. And obviously we don't get to go back and forth. So it's been a little weird. That's for sure, because normally nothing is said. But hands down, I mean, advocating is just truly a dream come true. And if we're going to talk tonight about like these spaces of success, right, with our high school students, that success really comes not just at the elementary level, but the middle school level, because we have a lot of magnet programs for the middle school level, but most of our students aren't exploring those options until high school. And so I know in the years that I was a truancy diversion judge, when I was at Woodbury Middle School, that's how we motivated the kids. Was like most of the students there like had a family member that was super great at a skill, right? Whether it was mechanics or cooking or construction or arts, there were, when you really started engaging the students as to what they wanted to be when they grew up, right? Like in 7th, 8th grade, they all had someone that they really looked up to within their life that they wanted to mirror and that they were very interested in. And so we were able post-pandemic to pull, I think I had a pool of about 25 students between the 2 years. And we were really able to just mentor them into believing in themselves that they could be that, profession when they grew up, and then helping guide them to the magnet and other schools in the area that had opportunities, right? And I saw in the chat, Rodney said something about, like access, right? Like, how do kids really know what they want to be if they have a very limited access to experience any type of these professions as they are moving forward in their education in post-secondary? And so a move that I think the state has made in the last couple of years that is going to be revolutionary for some future generations right now is the college and career readiness diploma. That is now a requirement. which is basically enabling every single high school graduate to be college and career ready when they, walk the stage. And so I think that moving forward away from our past administration into new administration, is because I've heard this a lot over the years, that our previous superintendent did not allow our true community partners to come to the table to offer those types of experiences and opportunities to the students who needed them the most. And so that's a hope I have for future administration and future leadership, is to break down those walls of why we've had so many community members coming forward saying, I've been trying to offer this, like, we're here, we're ready, right? Like, we've heard so many of those over the years. So access is everything.
Absolutely. So, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Rodney.
I remember when I got to high school, it was like a different world from all of the, from kindergarten and then elementary and then middle school. High school was different. And I cannot say I was prepared for it. As a matter of fact, I'll say just the opposite. So intellectually, I was ready. But knowing how high school worked, my responsibility as a student, I really didn't know. I was going to class because I went to homeroom and I got a schedule and I went to that class. At that time, no one in my family had ever graduated college. So that was a whole new experience for me and my family. So I didn't have the family guidance to say, you need to look and do this, and you need to take these classes if you want to go to college, or if you want to trade, you need to do this, or you may want to lean a little more heavily into science versus whatever it was. I just didn't have anybody to tell me that. And because there were so many more students, the lack of counselor support, I really was just sort of just floating through. And once I had my own children, of course, I wasn't able to really provide much support for them because I didn't know it. It was, as I made it through, obviously, but I just happened to get lucky and make it through, to be honest. And I had no real career path or goals. I finished high school, and then I applied to college, and I got into college, and I was going to college, but there wasn't any real focus. And so in the Clark County School District, when my children were going to school, I noticed counselors were ghosts. In other words, the counselors were not available and accessible to my children to help guide them, to help find out what their interest was so they would take classes in those interests. And I found that to be a hindrance for them once they got into the 11th grade. And I says, man, I wish someone would have talked to them in the 10th grade. Maybe they wouldn't have been credit deficient, or for the college that they're now thinking about going, they would have already had started taking classes in order to prepare themselves for that. So my experience in the CCSD, as well as my own personal life, is that there wasn't enough guidance given to the children to help prepare them for life after graduating high school. The sole focus, once you made it out of 10th grade, was just graduating. It really wasn't about life after. What I would hope that we would do with our children, for me, grandchildren, is that we make sure that we do have counselors available, that we start assessing the children immediately on what they want to do. I'm talking about as soon as they start high school, and that then there's follow-ups as they're advancing through it. That's critically important for them just to make it out successfully, and also to choose a career path.
Yeah, I think those are definitely some really good points. And there's a couple things. And Shaquilla, after I make my point, you can definitely go next. I saw your hand up. I think that schools can do a better job of creating the space to give students an opportunity to think about this, but also including their parents in this. Because like you said, if you don't know, you just don't know. And I know people always say, oh, but there's the internet, you can Google. You have to give Google the right information to get the information that you need. So I never say, oh, go research it. Well, you have to know the right questions to ask. You have to know what the questions are, what it is that you're even asking for. So I definitely think that schools can do a better job of kind of mentoring students into this space of thinking about what their options are after school. Not every student is going to want to, or wants to do college, or is a fit for college, and that's okay. But there are other opportunities and avenues that students need to access to. And I think Anna hit the nail on the head when she said, she talked about the word access. Not all students have that information and that knowledge to be able to make decisions about what they would like to do in the future. Shaquilla?
Yes, I wanted to agree with you on that. Yes, as educators, as school employees, we have a professional, and some feel like myself, a personal responsibility to impart the knowledge on the students as much as we can, as far as what some of the options are. But going back to what you said and what Mrs. Binder said, this is a partnership, and this is about advocacy. So we may not know what we don't know, but it starts with a question. And what I find with a lot of families is sometimes they can feel hesitant to come to the school. Sometimes they may feel a little nervous, depending on their experience. But and it's okay to feel that. But we have to be able to ask questions as well. In this technology, we do have Google. We also have the library system. And so first of all, it's okay. But then it has a lot of resources for the family programs that are available. We also have the technical schools. We have the trades. Students can be apprentices. So we have to encourage more partnership and engagement from the families with the schools, so that they feel comfortable with exploring the options that the students have for their future.
Okay, I thought okay, Shaquilla, if you finished, because you were kind of going in and out a little bit.
Yes, my internet is Cox cable, so that's probably why.
Right. You know what? Mine's been tripping lately too, for real, for real. So we need to holler at them in this monopoly they have. But anywho, yeah, you definitely brought up some great points. It does. Starts with the question, and the question could be, what do I do? Right. So for me, and then there's another dynamic that students should think about. Like, if you're a student who wants to play sports in college, you have another avenue. So I was a student that wanted to play soccer in college. So that was something else I had to think about. So if you want to be an athlete, or you're going to do, you're going to play a sport, football, soccer, lacrosse, swimming, all the sports that are out there, you're going to be a dancer, a cheerleader, that's another avenue that you need to look into. And typically, now this was back in the day for me, but usually around 10th grade, you can start being recruited. That's when you can start getting letters from colleges about your athletic abilities to come and view their schools. So that's another layer to add to what students are interested in. One thing that I think is important for individuals who are, who want to play sports. I've met, there are some people out there, because there are some people out there who, I knew a young lady that I played soccer with who played for only 2 years and was phenomenal. But that's not the case for everyone. So this is something that you need to make sure that you're starting now at a young age. If you're interested in playing sports, families need to get their kids in these sports early so they can, start to develop those skills early on, and, have a chance at playing whatever that activity is when they get older. One thing that I also think is important, I know that, well, first let me shout out, Jamie D is on Facebook. and then also Pastor West. Another thing that's important is that you connect with the community organizations that are taking students on tours. We know that there's an HBCU tour with Pastor West. Are they on it now? They may be. I think he'll let us know. But you want to make sure that you're in. Trustee Guzman, she's on Facebook. Thank you for joining our Facebook Live. You want to make sure that you're connecting with these organizations, and you can also ask your counselors. Usually the counselors will have this information about what organizations are providing these opportunities for students. I wish that we could just have more opportunities to ensure that a larger group of students can go to get an opportunity. I know one thing that is passionate for me is that we take students who normally don't get the opportunities. Sometimes it takes students who maybe don't have the best grades to get an opportunity to experience what life would be like in a college, and maybe that will help to inspire them. So I do hope that we can build opportunities, that community members can build opportunities to ensure that students who don't have these opportunities and maybe may not be the best students, but they're looking for options. What other ideas? Let me just say this. Now I know there is some controversy going on around SAT scores and all these traditional tests to get students into college. I did not do good at all on an SAT. My parents put me in the course. I struggled. When it comes to tests, that is not me. I don't like a test because technically the SAT, the GRE, the ACT, all of them have said that I shouldn't even be in school. They were like, no, don't pick this girl. Do not pick her. But let me tell you, I have definitely, and this is the hope and motivation for students out there who are struggling to get past these tests that are needed to get into some schools. Keep trying, keep fighting anyway, because all of those tests that told me I shouldn't even be a graduate student, I'm working on a PhD. So I don't even understand what that madness is about. The tests are very biased. There's scholarship around it. We know it's biased, but yet we're still continuing to use these. And this
I was told on,
yeah.
Remember, I don't know, I'm this old, I'll age myself. In, I think my freshman year of high school, you took like an aptitude test of like your interests and things like that. And it was on an old school, like Mac DOS. So it looked like the Oregon Trail.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So mine basically told me that I should be a lumberjack.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, that thing was so old.
I tried to wrap my mind around that forever, because back when I took the test, I was all of about 82 pounds. I was 4'9". And the computer said to be a lumberjack.
I remember that little old thing.
But so the state also in the last couple of years has put out an RFP to replace the ACT. I'm not familiar exactly where they're at in that spot, but as we've seen, colleges and stuff move away from some of these for-profit testing, I know that the state of Nevada was trying to move into alignment with that, and so I can follow back up with that, but it's been a minute since I've heard about it, but that doesn't not moving forward with it. But you're right, because I think that it's a lot of stigma for everybody, right? Like, and we hear about this a lot, like, not everybody is meant for college, right? Like some people just don't want to do it, but there shouldn't be a barrier to being a successful, productive citizen who can afford to thrive and not, have to go the route of a full college education, right? These are the trades, these are skills, these are, we have a huge workforce. And so I think as I watch us move into the future and needing to staff all of these different types of positions, something that I've heard so much over the last 5 to 6, 7 years is, for some reason, especially here in Clark County School District, we have a total lapse of parental participation.
Right.
And why is that? I've been asked, I mean, people have pulled me aside because, I deal a lot with parents, and they're like, why? Like, why is it this way? This goes all the way up to the state level. And so when we talk about, like counselors, I've experienced counselors that when I've tried to highlight a couple of students to them, like that they need help with something, that if I'm not knocking on their door once a week asking for the follow-up, nothing's getting done. And I know that our counselor to student ratio is extraordinary.
Extraordinary low and insufficient.
Extraordinary low, right. It's not in a good way. Just like our social workers and our psychologists and our teachers. And somebody brought up the other day, they were like, oh, because we've made all these historic investments in education, that things should be better, right? And I think for a lot of people, it's difficult to, like, when I hear like an extra $2 billion, I'm sure I'm like most people, right, that are like, whoa, that's so much money. But then when you break it down amongst, 42,000 employees, the overhead to run the district, everybody getting a very livable wage, it's not a lot of money. And but when you hear 2 billion, right, you're like, oh my God, yes. But it's, oh my God, no. Because even if we had fiduciary fidelity and all of the good faith coming forward, when you break it down by the numbers, it's still inadequately funded. And so we can't fill these seats until we're adequately funded, like fully adequately funded to the national level. And then a lot of the work that we have done around those studies are dismal in comparison to the inflation that we have seen now over the course of the last couple of years. So I would think the value in the math with those numbers is actually now lower than it was when, they released the reports. But at the end of the day, how can we fill these seats other than moving forward and building a better climate, culture, support system that complements this type of funding, right?
So Anna, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to break this down a little bit, because all too often we associate student, school, district, general education success with dollars. And if dollars, or an increase in dollars, truly was attached to success, then we would see a level of success here in the CCSD, because we have gotten more money over a span of time, and especially since I've been involved in the CCSD. But to a certain extent, there has been a level amount of success or a decrease in success. So when people talk about money, and I'm not against more money, but as a taxpayer, I've said that unless it's for the maintenance of a school or teachers' raises, I wouldn't pay a cent more in taxes for this district. But Sister Kamilah, we also did a show, and it was, what should a 12th grader look like? In other words, when a student graduates from the Clark County School District, what should they be equipped with? Because if you start with what they should be equipped with, then you can go and say, how much is that going to cost? Because when a person says fully funded, to me, that is nebulous. Fully funded is it's all the way up to the moon and beyond. What is defined as fully funded? And not that, well, this district gets this, therefore we should get that, because our needs may be different. So as we talk dollars and cents, let's attach the dollars and cents to achievement, but what is that dollars and cents going to that's going to bring about that achievement so that we could actually have a budget to meet the need versus being like a baby bird saying, feed me, feed me, feed me.
So we have some conversation in the chat. Ms. Stewart, did you want to ask your question? And then we have some in the Facebook Live as well, or some comments.
If you want to, you can just go ahead and read the question aloud.
Awesome.
And I'd like to hear from others.
Awesome. So Ms. Stewart put in here, we reside in the sports and entertainment capital of the world. Are casinos, corporations in Las Vegas offering internships to high school students? If so, what are the application requirements? That is an absolutely great question.
So I think this is another issue that comes to counselors, is because most students I'm speculating here, but may not even think about those types of things. Unfortunately, a lot of parents won't think about it either. So there are internships out there. As a matter of fact, when I started my business was pretty much run from interns to give them an opportunity to learn how to do whatever they were majoring in high school if they went to a magnet, and then later in college. But most students didn't know that there were internship programs or apprenticeship programs out there. And it was Pastor West that talked a few shows back on how important those apprenticeships were to him. But if you don't have a direct connection to those apprenticeships, then where and how would the student know that MGM has an apprenticeship, that most of the media companies in the Valley do have internships? A lot of companies have internships, but it's getting that information to the student. That seems to be what's lacking.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Smith. I would just like to add here, I'm originally from New York City, and back in the 70s, I was a member of a youth organization called Youth Activists Now. And so we were young Black children, youth, buying records and albums from these companies. So what we decided to do, we actually picketed these companies. And that's how we were able to obtain our internships. Just food for thought.
So welcome to another fellow New Yorker, Brooklyn in the house,
Harlem in the house.
Brooklyn. So here's the thing, we actually may not have to pick it because these places a lot of them have it. It's really connecting the institutions with the employment agencies. And in some cases, the institutions are not reaching out, but the employment agencies are sending the information. But because of, I guess, an overload on the staff, that information doesn't trickle down to the children. I'll give you an example. I was on the academy board for the military service academies. Most children did not know that every state has an allocation to military service academies and that you have to apply. And if you apply, you have an opportunity to get in. Now, when I sat on that board, I noticed that it was mostly people from upper income levels, white people, and people who were connected. But your everyday student, they had no idea that they could get a free 4-year scholarship to a top level educational institution. So I don't want to put all of the blame on the counselors, but I do believe that there is a share of responsibility that the counselors as well as the school administrators have on getting this information to the students and their parents.
Right. And I think one thing that's important, because I think that's a very good question. Now from an outsider looking in, I have not seen a commitment of our sports and entertainment capital of the world really having a collaboration. And this is where I think it becomes the responsibility of the leaders, like Mr. Rodney was basically saying, was that it's important when The leaders are responsible for ensuring that these connections are happening. So I think this right here is actually something that's a really good idea. And we do have, I know UNLV has a whole hospitality curriculum out there. But for those who are not wanting to go to college, I think it is the responsibility of the schools, the district, to ensure that these opportunities are available for students. And I think this is where the collaboration becomes very important. Now, typically what we have seen in the past, especially with our last, well, I'm not gonna say that, but what I'm gonna say is that we haven't seen a lot of meaningful collaborations that would support students in this way. But I think this is actually something that needs to be a focus for students, because there are, I mean, one, we're taxpayers, we give to all of these corporations, and it should be a corporate responsibility of these organizations to take on students, provide some type of service that will support our students. So thank you for that. And I hope that we have leaders, board members that value this and that will take this on as a task. I had a family ask me, they were like, Kamilah, what are you gonna do about this? And I was like, well, what is it? And the issue was that their child is not able to participate in sports because they can't afford it, specifically cheerleading, because they can't afford the fee. So initially in my head, it's like, okay, now what we're saying that public education is now a space where we're talking about the haves and the have-nots. And they wanted a real answer, an answer that I believed in and that I absolutely believe in. And I said, there's money. The issue is that the leaders, it's not enough for a leader to say, oh, we don't have money or funding for that. That's not the kind of answers I'm concerned about when we're talking about leaders. We elect people to solve problems. And if that is a problem for you, family, my job is going to be to figure out how do we solve the problem, especially when we have $1 billion industry right here down the street. And then the young lady just told us they dropping millions of dollars of coins on the ground. Didn't the young lady tell us that the casinos are the 5 cents, the 10 cents here, those are adding up? So my response to them was that this is why you need to pick leaders that you understand their values. You understand if they're going to be the person who problem solves and connects and collaborates with people. So I do think it is a responsibility of our school system to find ways to collaborate with people who are making the money, who have the means, to collaborate with the leaders in our casino industry, to collaborate with big corporations to ensure that, hey, can you donate? Can you help students out? So anywho, that was that. But really quick, I want to say, give a shout out to some people in the Facebook. Trustee Watson, I accidentally dismissed him because of the Zoom bomber. So Trustee Watson is in the Facebook Live. I asked him to come back, but he's there. Thank you to Michael Richards for joining in. He said that everyone's on point. Jamie D had a response. She said that she's had parents tell her that it's not their problem about how their children behave in class because it's the teacher's job. So we have that. And she said that there is a severe disconnect between families. Hold on, I missed it. Between families. Laura Perkins, Regent Perkins said, everyone needs something past high school to be able to participate in the upcoming market. Not everyone needs a degree in astrophysics. Thank you. Trustee Guzman is on. Thank you, Trustee Guzman. She said fully funded has been defined by the school funding committee that Jason Gowdy sits on. So we can go check out that definition. Thank you. Trustee Cavazos joined. She said, thank you so much for continuing these important conversations. She also said that you made a good point, Mr. Rodney, about the service academies. Trustee Guzman said, define meaningful collaboration. Okay, yeah, now she's challenging me right here. Define meaningful collaboration. How can board members move this thought process forward? Defining meaningful conversations. So what I mean by meaningful conversations is that we want to have conversations that aren't just like checklists, but they're actionable plans that we can measure and evaluate our progress. So it's not just, oh, we're just gonna have this idea out here, but we don't follow it. There's no way to measure it. It's a SMART goal. We have a goal that is measurable and we can evaluate it. How can board members move this thought process forward? Well, that would be very hard to move thought processes forward on a board. Now, remember, the school board is a voting board, and then we have members on the school board who provide some very insightful thoughts and opinions and ideas on the matters. It would be hard if you have people who don't like you, who don't believe in your ideologies. If you have a split board, it would be hard to have the type of conversation that I'm talking about if people do not agree. So this is why I say that the community becomes very important in deciding, listening to the values of school board members. So you know that I have a very open mind. I will listen to you. I will, one of my mentor friends just the other night said that she had an open door policy. I have an open door policy. So as you begin to vet candidates, ask them this same question. What does it mean to have meaningful conversations? See how they define that. What does that mean to them? Ask them how they will handle conflict. Do they only care about their own ideas, or are they willing to listen to ideas that may stretch and challenge them? So I know that some of my trustees are like, do you really want to do this? It's not, it's a very hard job. I want to say that it is a very hard job. And I think sometimes as candidates, we may think that, well, I'm going to stop what I was going to say there. I'm going to say it's a very hard job. And this is why I said it's very important that voters understand who the candidates are, what their ideas and their values are, so that we can begin to pick people who are willing to have challenging conversations, think outside of the box, and not always listen to what their own minds are saying. So I know that was a lot. Trustee Guzman is challenging me. I love that. Oh my gosh, thank you for that.
So I like that.
Mrs. But let me hold up.
Anybody
I have
else?
my hand up.
Go ahead.
Let me cut in really quick. It's not just about having meaningful conversations, because anybody can say anything to get your vote, but it's also about follow through. So you can have smart goals, but when you step off the camera, when you step off the board of trustees school meeting, what are you actually going to do? What have you been doing behind the scenes this whole time? What is your voting record? So it's easy. I think anybody who spent time in high school and graduated, which most of these politicians and people have done, can have a legitimate and intelligent response. But what does your actions say? Are you a person of integrity and honor, or are you a liar? And a lot of people are dishonorable. So I don't think that just having meaningful conversations is going to show us who's going to support our community and lead our students forward. I think it's their actions that are going to speak higher than their words.
Absolutely. Thank you. Somebody, I think Mr. Rodney.
So what I was going to say is, I'm glad that there are trustees here listening, because this is meaningful conversation. This is putting forth ideas and concerns that we don't get a chance to always say at a school board meeting. And so we're seeding the ground here for those trustees, as well as the people who are on this broadcast, to move further from where we have been to where we should be. Fully funded, according to what somebody said at the assembly or wherever, is one thing, but is it meaningful for the advancement of our district? Does it give us the things that our district needs? And maybe our district should define what is fully funded for our district. And then for the engagement piece, it is critically important that a better relationship is established between administrators, educators, and the community. We have to have it. As a matter of fact, as we're doing this search for the new superintendent, our next superintendent, it as a community member, what a superintendent is graded on to determine whether their performance is as a minimum adequate or meeting the needs of their student body is nebulous to me. So for example, in all the areas that this school district is failing in, whoever we hire to be the next leader of the district, the operations manager, so to speak, as he often called himself, can we look at integrating the areas that we're failing in into their report card, so to speak, so that we can see, are they doing the things that are needed? Or is it just some nebulous things that people say, well, yeah, you met this, you met that, as our students are failing? So these are the type of discussions that I think that we need to have. And maybe we need to do a show specifically on what should our next leader, what should his value, him or her, what should their value be? And how does that relate to the areas that we need their values to be to help advance the education of our scholars?
That's so deep. And the problem is we need a board consensus, because the last values that our former superintendent were voted on and passed to evaluate him were shams, and they knew it was shams. And so moving forward, the only way to bring all of those things to light is to have a board in place that agrees upon those very critical things, and that people weren't shamed for asking for that accountability. Like, we had elected trustees very much shamed for asking those points to be the part of that value system. So it's a rules thing, kind of like what I put in the chat. Like, I think part of what Trustee Guzman was alluding to is really, how can we do that when our existing governance policy prevents a lot of this great work that should be getting done?
So we can definitely talk about governance policy, because does it have to be the way that it is now? And I'm just asking a question with a question, but I do want to, there's a lot of, so something has sparked a lot of conversation. We literally have a lot of chat in the Facebook and on the Zoom. So I want to go through the Facebook first. Edwina, do you want me to say yours, or did you want to say yours yourself? You're on mute.
Oh, okay. No. I was just making a comment. That's all. I was saying that I did, I taught high school in Florida, and I used to counsel my students, and I was a counselor and told them what they need. Not a high school counselor, but I was also a counselor. And I was, explaining to the importance of getting a scholarship, as opposed to getting a loan. And, and I would call on, get information for them, because I worked in a very small Lutheran school. And so I would help them in that, respect. And then, I was just making a comment about my granddaughter. She'll be going to 11th grade next year. And I was telling her, now is the time to look for those scholarships. I think in the state of Georgia, as long as you're in Georgia, they give you a portion of money to go to school, but you have to, of course, stay in the state of Georgia. I told her, however, if she wanted to leave the state, she needs to start now. She runs track. I told her that would be a good way of trying to get a, obviously a track scholarship. I will be trying to help her financially. So that's all. That's all the comments that I wanted to say. I was telling my high school students, this was 15, 16 years ago, that is so important. If you want to go to school, you've got to get your grades up. You've got to be able to write those letters, you know, do community service, just be involved. College is so expensive now. It's 160 grand for 4 years. So of course, who has that kind of money unless you're very wealthy? So I was explaining to them the importance. I was one, of course, that didn't do well on tests, SAT test. I just didn't do well. But however, I did go to school. I didn't always start out in art. I went to a traditionally Black college and I switched into art. But, you know, I just wanted to say to them how important. Right now, I teach with Miss Stewart's at the same school. And I'll tell you, I tell these students, you've got to learn to write. You've got to learn to be able, you know, to write and to fill out applications. And that's so important. I think, too, if they're not going to school, they need a skill. They've taken most of those out. When I was in high school, they had skills. You know, they had technical courses for those students to take, you know, but for the most part in Florida, a lot of them have been taken out of the school, which is unfortunate. Not everyone will be able to go to school, so they do need to get a skill. I'm not really familiar with Clark County. I've only been out here 10 years. I haven't been out here that long. So I'm not really familiar with the high schools. But that's all I wanted to say, you know, that I think it's important if they don't go to school to get a skill. Excuse me, but you know, that's all I have to say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Shaquilla, you said that may we also have an unbiased, honorable, and external group outside the board to evaluate the persons within the board?
Yes, ma'am, because we know that there are several conflicts of interest, and I know that's part of human nature as well. But the board of trustees is notorious for, you know, their dealings. So if we're going to evaluate how well they're doing, if they're meeting their SMART goals, we need someone outside of them who is honorable and has integrity, so that they can have a more unique and direct perspective of what's being done. If you're within the board and you're in a superintendent, that just doesn't make sense.
Thank you. And please know, y'all, the trustees are listening, so I know they're taking notes. So this is good.
They are, well, you can't see, there we go. They are here on Facebook Live and they are engaging. So we are actually having that conversation that we were talking about. Now we need to do this on a recurring basis, and this needs to be just the beginning, and we need more of it, because really we have a huge brain trust in our parents and just community members in general, that all too often, because of the structure of the meetings now and the way we do things, we're locked out. And so a lot of the answers may be there for us, but we don't have access. That's why conversations like this, what we're doing tonight, are hugely important. And thank you to the trustees for being willing. And I know they have some rules for being in one place. I don't know how that relates to social media, but the fact that they're here, we're having some type of, and we're going back and forth in a positive manner. This is progress, and we need more of it.
Awesome. And then, Mr. Rodney, you said maybe the board should ask the community for direct input. It happened decades ago and can happen again if we have the will. I do want to go on Facebook Live. So some of the thoughts that have come out. Jamie D said that part of their job at a magnet is helping kids find internships that relate to their majors. And it's disheartening to see how many business and organizations around the town don't want to work with our kids. Well, we need to know who those organizations are. And then Jamie said, I know you're a teacher because you busted out those SMART goals. Regent Perkins, Laura Perkins said actionable and measurable. Okay, hold on. Something left. Okay, somebody added something, so it went down. Okay, hold on. There's a lot of engagement going on here. Hold on 1 second. Let me go back. Regent Perkins said actionable and measurable is a great definition for meaningful conversations. Trustee Cavasso said, I think we as board members, all of us, need to not just do listening sessions, but that we can actually push hard to get actions and result from what the community has told us. Trustee Guzman said, remember that the community tells you how they interpret the agenda. Meaningful conversations in the community allows us to have a back and forth that open meeting law does not allow. Okay. Remember student outcomes will be the way you, Trustee Guzman said to remember student outcomes will be the way you evaluate the next superintendent. Anna
I like that.
Right. Regent Perkins said the board can change policies. Trustee Cavazos, thank you, Rodney. Well said. I will add that transparency and accountability must be adhered to at all times. You are correct. Transparency and accountability should be the way we evaluate board members. That was from Trustee Guzman. Jamie D has said, especially for first generation college students, my parents had no idea how to look for money and things when I was looking, and it ended up poorly when my dad signed a bad loan. Yeah, that happens a lot. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry to hear that. Regent Perkins, community engagement is paramount. Listening sessions, attending parent group meetings, and community groups. And then Rodney, you said we need the new board to do just that, and they should be, okay, and should be what we look for when we vote for trustees. Jenna Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. She said, our magnet programs are amazing, but no 8th grader should be deciding on high school training programs. They should be trying lots of things. That's the exploration I was talking about. Trustee, listen, y'all are on it tonight. Trustee Guzman, our high schools would be great if they were fully staffed.
So hold on to that one, Sister Kamilah, just for a moment. That comes up so often with schools in general. So then, of course, that provokes the question of why aren't they fully staffed? And is that also a part of the superintendent's report card? Is that a part of the administrators who run those schools? Is that a part of their report card? Because obviously, if there are not licensed full-time teachers there, then there is a problem. Are we seeing it as a problem? Are we addressing the problem? So in other words, is there a date when that school, or however many schools are, will be fully staffed? What is the hindrance to it being fully staffed now? Those are areas that we need to delve in deeper so that we can come up with actionable solutions.
Absolutely. So next time, I'm gonna have to make sure that I'm following this right when there people are still texting and it's moving me up. So I read Jenna. We talked about staff. Regent Perkins says this is for you, Shaquilla, for your question. There are board evaluation consultants available and should be done at least once a year.
Okay, hold on.
I want to see the receipts on that, and I want to see the whole itinerary on that. I want to see everything. I want it to be a full audit.
Okay.
So when we say should, and I appreciate that we're saying something, but should is not mandatory. Should is a nice idea. Yeah, I suggest that we have this or that. But when it comes down to we will, then that's the type of active language that I want to hear from the people that are in charge on what we're going to do, but not just what would be nice to do.
Absolutely. Now, did you had a question around the teacher shortage, Mr. Rodney?
No, what my post was, these teacher shortages that seems to be increasing, and it's starting to look like a revolving door in the CCSD, and we're able to attract new teachers now, which is a good thing, but we're losing teachers. So if we attract them and spend the time on training them, which is often what happens when you're a new teacher and you're starting out, you get that training on how to hold the class and have that control, right? You learn how to do your lessons plans more effectively for your student body. But then once they do their 2 or 3 years, they're rolling out. Well, then we have to get more, we have to repeat that process. Our children are losing because now the volume of experienced teachers is decreasing. Those senior teachers, those teachers who could actually help a new teacher. And so that's a problem. What are we doing? Is it being annotated as an actionable problem? And are there actionable solutions on the table that are being engaged, or are we just enjoying the fan effect of that revolving door as we're moving into the hotter months?
Right. Okay. Good thought.
On that real quick, I believe the IFC joint the interim committee has asked the state to start gathering that attrition data because they're hearing so much about that. So I will keep you all posted when they come back with a future presentation on that specific data. But again, over the last couple of years, our superintendent was only evaluated on incoming teachers. There was no value placed to retaining our educators. And as many people know, our PERS system is set up, I think, for 5 years. So people can come in and at 5 years, they get some type of PERS and then they move on with their careers as well. So I think that's another discussion for another night because we could be on here for hours talking about that one.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through all of these notes. For those of you who have to leave, because we have gone past our time, you're welcome to stay on or not, but I do want to go through all these notes because the individuals who are joining us took the time to write them. So really quick, let's go through. I'm not sure what you were in reference to, Michael Ford. This is my cousin. He said, how do you assist and organize? Okay, no, that wasn't it. There was something before that. Being vulnerable is important. How do you establish, maintain, and grow vulnerability? I think for me, that comes with building, we're not vulnerable with people we don't know, we don't trust, and we don't have a relationship with. And I think in building relationship requires that you have presence, that people are able to access you, that they're having events and be able to build those relationships. I think that is important when we're talking about building vulnerability. So Trustee Cavasso says, you all give me so much hope. No more backroom deals that the community is unaware of. And Jenna said, her reply was, I would love this to be true. Who's doing these backroom deals? Trustee Guzman said, thank you for inviting me. I wanted to be a silent viewer, but the conversation wouldn't let me. I had to chat. Michael Ford, how do you assist in organizing parents and community members to engage the board in a strategic manner beyond the meetings? Well, today we finally showed, I think today we showed engaging the board in a strategic manner. However, I don't think it's something that can happen. It takes time. You have to build consistency. So for example, Anna and I Anna was going to school board meetings consistently before Tracy and I showed back up with LAVAPSI. And I think that's one way to build the relationship, to be able to get to that step, to start to organize. I don't think these things this has been years in the making, right, Anna? This has been years in the making. But I think the first thing is that you have to show that one, you care, you're committed, and you show up, and that you're actually bringing real issues with real life solutions. And that's one thing that I've seen really change the face of, we're not there 100%, but I think that we've seen some growth and improvement. And I don't know if you have something else you wanted to share or anybody else.
Really, I think where the change came from me years ago was realizing that we can all complain all day long. How, it goes back to that, actionable plan where we can achieve something. And so when I realized I could just stand there and, complain and moan and gripe and bring all these issues forward, I think once I reassessed and found the value of also being someone willing to do the work and then figuring out how to help get that work done by building partnerships and building friendships and building our community and the avenues to the people who are willing to be accessible for our community. It was a real big game changer. And being reliable, dependable, honest, trustworthy, and present, I believe for me brought the greatest change. Like, the ability to step into a space and have the respect of those listening that, you may or may not agree with what I'm going to say, but I don't come with BS that we can't fix. And I think as we all move forward, we can change anything we want to if we do it together.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I love these hopeful romantics. Oh gosh. That's what we're going to end on. We're going to end on, once I finish these comments, we're going to end on Trustee Cavazos, the hope. We're going to end on that hope. That would be our last message. So Trustee Watson says, looking forward to the next session, community input for the next superintendent. Jenna Robertson said it should be not just new hires, but retention. Trustee Watson said high vacancies are an issue in the district. Trustee Cavazos said, Rodney, retention has not been prioritized as much as recruitment. Working conditions, pay, everything plays a part in both staffing and student outcomes. Okay, I have to. Okay, Trustee Ford said, once the board is normal again, talk to Cindy Crone about the ways the board connected with community for 30 years. Revert back to the things that worked, but were cut. Laura Perkins, Anna, I love public commentary like yours. Give me a solution to work forward. Start coming to the Regent meetings, please. Okay, let me see. Did I miss anyone? There was a lot, you all. Thank you so much for joining today. Jenna Robinson said the superintendent is not evaluated on retention. We need to change that. Michael Ford said, or no, Laura Perkins, meet parents where they go. Karaoke, parent-teacher conferences, sporting events, athletic practices, parent groups. Okay. All right. We got through all the comments. So I think I want to end on this note. And for those, this is for everyone to answer if they want. And let me just say, Miss Amy said, I'm excited to see so many board members on the call. This is a great first step. When parents see the board members are willing to take time to listen to the community, that is a great first step. So thank you to trustees, Trustees Cavazos, Trustees Guzman, former Trustee Ford, and Trustee Watson for showing up, and also to Regent Perkins. She is a board of regent with INSHE. So she handles higher education. So thank you to all of our education friends and family for joining us. And thank you to our teachers who joined and our parents who joined tonight. This is where we start. This is where we start. So I want to end on the hope, because we're giving a lot of hope here. And Anna, so just based off of what Trustee Cavazos, your final thoughts can be about that hope and what that means to you and what you're feeling about the comments that Trustee Cavazos said, like we're giving a lot of hope.
I think it's because we've been in this space and I'm sure you felt this way and many that surround you as well, but we've been in some spaces in the last 5 years where all we could have was hope. And so I know that even in times when I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, oh my gosh. But then something would happen and something would change, right? Or we would be able to redirect something that they were adversely trying to do to our staff, our students, our community. And I don't think we would be in the same spot if there wasn't a commitment from even, sometimes it seemed like a handful of people in the community showing up. People were listening, people were invested, people were willing to send emails. And, we used to be able to make phone calls. And I agree with touching base with Cindy. I mean, I know she's very much enjoying vacation. But, we're 50 years down the road in the school district or more. And there are really successful things that we have seen in the past. And the last 6 years have taken so much from us. And I think that when I hear parents or staff or teachers, if I show up on a school, uh, I know, like, and this was even before I said I was going to run, if I show up at a school site, the whole school knows I'm there, and I have everybody running to me. What's going on? What does this mean for us? What can we do? Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like all these things. Right. But at the end of the day, the reason that we, Kamilah, can give hope is because we are accessible and we are listening and we are willing to stand up and say things that are uncomfortable, and we are willing to reach inside ourselves to grow. And that is really something that everyone in our community needs, is really that. And so my hope tonight, as we leave you all, is that we continue to have our fighters and our people that are willing to stand up, and the people that we are surrounded with that are already serving, and future people that are willing to serve. My hope is for more of us.
Absolutely. Awesome. For me, I can't be any other person but hopeful. My dad always instilled into me, Kamilah, whenever I had like a negative mindset and I started thinking negatively about anything, he would say, Kamilah, you think positive and positive will happen. So I am always guided by the spirit of that thought and the things that my dad have taught me. And I told Tracy the other day, I don't even share half of what I believe with people because they be like, this girl living on another planet. Well, actually, I am. I do. I live on Pluto. And I believe in the impossible. And I do not, if I didn't think that this educational system could change, I wouldn't even have jumped in, I wouldn't even be running. I believe that in order for systems to change, we have to have people who are willing to disrupt and change those systems. So yes, the hope is the good, the hope is the good people. And I love that Trustee Cavazos brought up hope and that it gives her hope, because that is it. And I know, people may think, oh, this is false hope, it's never going to happen. I don't think like that. I don't believe in one fashion of the ounce or whatever phrase I was trying to put together there, that we can't change this. I really believe that we can. And if you've paid attention to what has happened over the decades of education, you will see little ounces of hope manifested. So there's no other way I can be. There's no other way I can be. I believe that we can accomplish the impossible no matter what the situation looks like. That's just the kind of person I am. If you played soccer with me, you know that I'm very competitive. And you may not see that all the time, but I am very competitive. And for me, that's just the foundation and the bottom line of where I believe I'm going to think positive. I'm going to be the best person I can be in this space for our students, families, teachers, support staff, all people working within the educational space, and for our community. And I am going to do my best to live up to the standard that I believe we should have as leaders in education. Rodney?
So when we talk about hope, to have this show was a hope. And it was just a hope until we had the show, to give people a chance to engage with one another, to start the process of organizing. Somebody mentioned that. How do we start to organize ourselves? Well, this is a start to organizing ourselves. This is a way for us to get to know who the people are and where their mindset is, and find out if it's a like mindset with yours or whomever. It's right here. And we have trustees, we had regents on tonight that heard from the people in a manner that they could engage with them, as they're not able to do with the current structure of the school board right now. And so we can build it. No, let me take that back. We are building it right here and right now. And if you want to continue to be a part of it, continue to join us at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on Zoom and Facebook Live. And let's continue this engagement, and let's continue to push our leaders to lead us as we want and need to be led. Let's speak that truth to them. I would say that they're here tonight on this show because they want to hear from you, and maybe in a manner that they don't hear from us on the school board when we go to those meetings. So the hope has been manifested, but now we need to build on that foundation to bring about the ultimate changes that we need, to put in place those measures of our superintendent's success. That's what we can do, and that's what we are doing, and that's what we will do as long as we have the belief, which also oftentimes start in a single hope.
Thank you, everyone. We did it tonight. This was so fun. I'm so glad we had a conversation. I love questions that challenge us to think about matters that we haven't thought of. We are only human, and we can only think about what we can think about, okay? All of our experiences are different. So it's important that you bring who you are to the table. You bring your experiences to the table so that we can reflect and think differently. Listen, if I'm not correct, I will say I'm not correct. If I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know. I'm a researcher, try to find it out later. But I really enjoyed tonight's conversation. There were a lot of good topics that came up. We hope to see you next week for our next show. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. You could have done anything in the world, but you decided to join our conversation tonight. I'm going to go ahead and let Anna go ahead and introduce herself one more time, and then I'll close it out.
If this says anything, because my husband follows along with my journey, and in all of these years, he's only ever had to slightly adjust one comment that Kamilah has ever made in public. And we were sitting in a meeting, and all of a sudden I get this text message, and he goes, Anna, tell her she's wrong. It's like this percentage, not that percentage. But it was only off, I think, like 3%. But it's important that when we come forward into spaces, that when we're relaying studies or data, that they are accurate. And so I kind of argued with him. I'm like, I'm not correcting her. And then I did, like, privately, and then showed her, like, he sent me the backup, and then I showed her, and then boom, she was able to correct herself. And it's very humbling, right? Because we have so much knowledge that we step forward in public spaces with, that we are accurate to the best of our ability. And so I just think it's really awesome, because everybody jokes about my husband playing games on his phone, but he's very much paying attention, because he knows how important it is for us to be very representative in what we are relaying, when we're stepping out for the community into spaces when they can't be there. So anyways, I'll leave with that. That just reminded me of that. I remember it. But yeah, so I'm Anna Binder. I'm running over here in Trustee District A. And I love being of service to this community, as many of you know, and I am always readily available all times of the day and night. And I will always be readily available. And I do just also want to end that the trustees that have joined us here tonight are also, I think, obviously the trustees that are readily available for conversations, insight, answers. If, they are the people that are willing to come to you, even if they're not your representative. Sometimes I've seen them go to bat and help connect community members with who they need to be with, to get, their questions answered or help. So I again want to thank them for joining us in this space. I know we're way over time, but they're very wonderful trustees, and Laura Perkins as well, always accessible. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight again. I'm Kamilah Bywaters. I'm running for the Board of School Trustees in District E. I look forward to your support. And if you're able to volunteer and to support or donate to my campaign, please do. Have a good night, everyone. See you next week.